Caught in the Act Unfaithful, Season 3, Episodes 4 and 5 review slash recap. So we meet Vanna. She's an older Cambodian woman. And she basically explained that growing up in Cambodia, her mom gave birth to her on a farm with no hospital and no medicine. And all she really remembers from growing up is like her country being at war and being attacked, BOMBs. So Vanna shows Tammy her boyfriend Stone, and Tammy was like, oh, he's black. And Vanna was like, yeah, but he's also 25% Filipino, and that's something that they connected on. So Vanna said one of her insecurities is that Stone said he wants to have kids, and Vanna is way past her childbearing age, so she knows she can't give him that. She also said they've talked about marriage and she has a ring, but she said she hasn't accepted. So I guess she accepted the ring and the proposal, but she told him that she didn't want to move forward with actually getting married right now. She said that Stone is still in contact with one of his exes named Sopheap. They have fell out, but now they're back on good terms, but I guess it's supposed to just be friendly, but she not really feeling it. And she said one day she looked at his phone and he had a text message from Sopheap saying, I love you. So it's time for the surveillance. Vanna and Stone don't live together, so they weren't able to go in Stone's house and put up the cameras like they would normally do, but they're just going to do the surveillance from outside the house and following him around. So the investigator follows him to like this bar restaurant, and he's in there playing the piano, and Vanna did tell them that Stone was a musician. After his performance at the bar, he's sitting at the table as if he's waiting for somebody, and he calls Vanna like, oh, I got a long day tomorrow in the studio, so I'm going to go to bed tonight and I'm going to call you tomorrow. But he's still outside. So the investigator was saying the same thing I said, like, why did he already tell her goodnight and he's still outside? But anyway, he did end up driving straight to the house after he left the bar. So right now, so far, so good. But 2 hours later, the investigator decided to sit out there and say, let me make sure he's home alone since we don't have cameras in the house. And she saw this woman walk by an open window in the house, and it's not Vanna. They identify her as Sopheap, which is the ex that Vanna said she was worried about him dealing with. And like the investigator said, when he had called Vanna the night before, remember he said, oh, I'm going to be in the studio all day tomorrow. I got a long day in the studio. But what actually happened was Sopheap spent the night at his house, and now they heading out the next day together. So he probably spending the day with Sopheap, and he just didn't want Vanna calling his phone. So he said, oh, I'm going to be in the studio, like as a cover up. So the investigator ends up following them to a family adoption services place. So this is crazy because remember Vanna said she can't give him kids, but Sopheap looked kind of older too. So it seemed like he probably can't have kids naturally with either one of them, but he's choosing to go adopt with Sopheap rather than Vanna. So Tammy and Kim bring Vanna in to show her all the surveillance. So one of the clips that they showed Vanna that they didn't originally show us was that when Stone went to play the piano or whatever at that bar, he met up with this older male friend, and they were just talking business, and Stone was basically like, I need to figure out who I'm leaving all my royalties to, all my properties, this, that, and the third. And he said, oh, well, one of the young girls I'm dealing with, all of my money goes to her. So then she sees Sopheap and him in the house, and she immediately does recognize that that's his ex. So Tammy's like, have you and her had any interaction? And Vanna said yes. When she moved back out here, Stone made it seem like him and Sopheap were just old exes, like old friends. She didn't have no family out here. She didn't have no friends. And he wanted me and him to like help her get acclimated to this new city that she moved to. And they're both Cambodian. So even though she knew that that was his ex, they still sort of formed some type of bond in her mind. And they were around each other and hanging out. Now, Sopheap do look a little younger than Vanna, maybe. So Tammy was like, maybe that's the young lady that he said he's giving all his money to. Damn, y'all, this is fucked up. So first they showed Vanna, Stone, and Sopheap going to the adoption center. And of course she broke down crying about that. But then they also showed some additional footage that we didn't even see at first, which is after they left the adoption center, they went to the courthouse and they came out with the papers. He had on this black suit and she had on this white dress, not like a wedding dress, but just a white dress. And he was like, I'm excited that we've applied for our marriage license. So now Vanna's getting mad. She's like, oh, I've been taking care of myself forever. I got 6 kids. I took care of all my kids. He don't want to fuck with me. I'm a dragon. She said, you know how the phlegm gets stuck in your throat? He's about to be the phlegm. And Tammy said, oh, yeah, you about to spit that nigga out, right? And she said, yeah. So Vanna has to choose between the takedown and the team up. And she actually chooses the first team up of the season. So instead of her just running up and attacking them when they find the two of them together again, she's going to meet up with Sopheap first and try to talk to Sopheap and get Sopheap's side of the story. And then they're going to go confront Stone together. So next day, Tammy and Ken go pick up Vanna. Tammy said the investigators found Sopheap and Stone at Stone's office, but then he left, so Sophia's there by herself. So they pulling up on Sopheap. And when they got there, Vanna was breaking down, and it seemed like Tammy kind of just saw something in her that she probably just don't really like confrontation because of everything she's been through when she was younger, how I told you her country was at war and stuff. So she has a lot of trauma. And Tammy was like, I'm very similar to you. It's just a different culture. But, I've been R-worded. I've been kidnapped. I've been held at G point. All of this to one person. I've been in abusive relationships. And and I want you to get out this car and go confront this issue. So Vanna's walking in looking for Sophia. Sophia comes out the room and says, what the fuck is all of these cameras? So Vanna was like, I just want to know what's going on with you and Stone. And Sophia said, Stone is my man. We've been together 14 years and counting. And if you have any other questions, you can go ask Stone. So Tammy and Ken come in at this point. And Sophia was like, first of all, I'm young and you're old. I don't have any children. You have 6 kids. And I'm just like, yeah, I could tell Sophia was a little younger than Vanna, like I said. But Sophia, you sitting here with a whole ass gray bob. Like, and it's not giving like stylish young gray bob. It's giving old lady gray bob. So when they sat down, Vanna was basically saying that she thought Sophia was an ex. Sophia was saying she thought Vanna was just a friend. And Sophia was like, at the end of the day, he writes all those songs about me. And Kim was like, how you know? Because he told you that? And she was like, no, I own all his masters. I own all his publishing, blah, 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 blah. So Sophia claimed they've been together the whole 14 years. They never broke up. And Vanna was like, yeah, but you have flew back like to wherever she's from in Cambodia. And Sophia was like, I fly back to help my family. And if you know, usually when people like fly back home to their country, they're going to stay there for a while. You're not just going to keep coming back and forth. And Tammy was like, okay, so do you think that when you was gone for that long and you were so far away that maybe that's when he started seeking this relationship and ended up with Vanna? And Sophia was like, maybe, like, that's why we need to get the truth. So all of a sudden, Vanna went, please, miss, to Tammy. Like, she didn't put her hand in her face, but, like, she put her hand up. And Tammy was like, okay, go ahead. And then her and Sophia started speaking Cambodian to each other, I guess. And they both started crying. And Tammy and Kim was like, what just happened? Like, but I guess they connected on their country and they realizing that they shouldn't be beefing like this because they supposed to be like sisters if they in the U.S. together. So Tammy's like, y'all see that he's the problem. Y'all shouldn't be mad at each other. He was playing both of y'all, had y'all unaware of what was going on, and then had y'all being around each other, and y'all really supposed to be Cambodian sisters. So being that Sophia handles all of Stone's music, she's going to set up a session for her and him to be in the studio so then Tammy, Ken, and Vanna could pop up. Okay, so the next day they take Vanna to the studio and they walk in on Stone, his band, and Sophia. So Stone is like, what's going on? What's all these cameras? And Vanna's like, oh, I went to them for help. And he like put his hand in her face like, oh, what you mean you went to them for help? He like, oh, y'all could have came and talked to me without all of these cameras. Y'all gotta go. So Tammy and Ken are like, hello. So Stone basically agrees to go to talk to Tammy in private. Like, he don't want to talk to neither one of them. So meanwhile, Ken is talking to Vanna and Sophia, and they realize that Vanna got a ring already, but they don't have a marriage license. Sophia has a marriage license, but she don't have a ring. Like Tammy says, Stone is a classic manipulator, gaslighter, no accountability, trying to talk about he likes saving people. No, you try to find vulnerable people and basically women who are coming from these war-ridden other countries, third world countries, and coming to the U.S. and need your help. And then he just starts going off and basically tells Tammy, bottom line, I can't be monogamous and I'm marrying both of them. That's it. I'm getting married to both of them. And he probably know they probably both will go for it. Let's see. So now he's hyped up talking about he's going off the Bible. He's ready to talk to them. So Tammy's like, okay, I'm going to have you talk to Vanna first. And Ken is going to take Sophia out. Baby, he said a whole bunch of nothing. So after saying nothing, he goes up to Vanna and tries to say, I'm sorry, I love you. Put your arms around me. Tries to force her to hug him. And she doesn't. And he's like, you know you're not going to leave me alone. So why are you doing all of this? So now they done brought Sophia back in. So all 3 of them in the room. And he going to tell Vanna that the marriage license with him and Sophia isn't even real. But it clearly was, because we saw them come out of the courthouse. Like, it was clearly official and documented. And then Sophia said, like, what is this right here? And showed him Vanna's hand because Vanna got the ring. So Sophia was like, 14 years and I don't get a ring and she get a ring. And he was like, so? And Vanna was like, he's playing both of us. Yeah, ding, ding, ding. Wake the fuck up. And Sophia said, well, you'll be pretty stupid to risk this with me because I own all your masters and your royalties and your publishing. But I'm like, it's probably something he just told her, but he probably didn't really sign nothing over to her because she don't seem like she's educated enough to really look into it and know for sure. And he was like, don't you do that. Don't you try that shit. I know what you're thinking. Don't try it. And he told them, I love both of y'all. I want both of y'all in my life. And that's it. That's the only option. I don't see myself being with one woman. And Tammy's like, you still didn't really take no accountability. A real man would have said, I was real with both of y'all, but I'm too effed up to be a one woman man. Like, it's not about y'all. It's about me. But Tammy was like, my work here is done. I've uncovered the truth. And that's that. He tried to say, oh, I'm going with you, Tammy. And she said, no, you're not. You're going to stay here and deal with whatever you're going to deal with. So Tammy and Kim walked out. And then Sophia and Vanna started leaving together. And they both was like, oh, you'll never find anybody like us. Telling him, bye, sweetheart, in Cambodian. And Tammy was like, yeah, they taught me some of it. Vanna was flipping him off. Stone told the cameras, I want to make it up to one or the other, because clearly they don't want to be with him altogether. So he like, I want to prove my sincerity to one or the other. So he didn't really care whichever one of them he ended up with. 3 months later, Tammy calls Vanna, and Vanna's talking about, yeah, we didn't talk for a couple weeks, but then me and him started talking again, and he chose me. No, girl. He really didn't give a fuck if it was you or her, clearly. She talking about they taking it slow. Vanna just sweet and slow, child. Then as far as Sophia, she said she tried to be friends with Sophia, but Sophia's upset. Probably because her and Stone back together. But it's like, girl, she was never your friend to begin with. So Stone didn't participate in the call. So Tammy was like, tell him I said don't have me come looking for him. And I feel like if you want you and his relationship to work, you need to just get Sopheap out of here. Okay, so now we moving on to episode 5. So we get introduced to RJ, who tells us that he goes by he, she, or whatever Tammy was comfortable calling him. So obviously he's a part of the LGBTQ community, and he's dating a guy named Javon. So he said he met Javon about 6 years ago online, and he said that they very quickly started living together and just spending all their time together. He said within 2 months he had a closet in Javon's apartment, and they were basically cohabitating. So about 4 years into the relationship, RJ proposed to Javon, so they've been engaged for about 2 years now. So RJ says he's here because he notices now that when him and Javon get into arguments, Javon will leave the house and turn his location off. And he said at first it would just be for like a couple of hours, but now it's gotten to the point where sometimes it's a day or 2 days. So he said that Javon will always say he was at his best friend Jade's house, and Jade is someone who just moved to where they live, and she lived with them for a few months and then got on her own feet and got her own place. And RJ is like, I'm cool with Jade. As far as I know, she's just like his little sister, and they're really just best friends. And then, of course, he also said that their sex life has diminished from them doing it like 4 or 5 days a week to once or twice a week, sometimes 0 times a week. And he said they have a joint account, and he notices like random withdrawals and transactions. And he said he don't really question it because he don't want to be monitoring his spending. But now it's gotten to the point where it's so often, and it's like, where's this money going when it's supposed to be our joint account for our future life? Okay, so now it's surveillance time. RJ does live with Javon, so their house has been rigged with the cameras. So Jay called Javon, and it did sound a little flirty. She was like, oh, you too busy for your bestie. What you doing later? He was like, oh, I'm going to just be chilling with RJ. And Jade was like, boring. So a few hours later, we see Jade pull up, and Jade and Javon are talking. And Jade is just like, oh, I'm about to quit my job. And Javon's like, why would you do that? You need some of your own money. You can't afford to be quitting no job right now. And Jade was like, yes, I can, because I don't pay the bills. So it sounds like Javon is paying Jade's bills. Then they went upstairs in the bedroom and came downstairs 30 minutes later. I feel like Jade is selling that pussy to Javon to get that rent paid. So the next day we see our guy leaving for work, and then a few hours later Jade comes and picks Javon up. So let's see where they're headed. So the surveillance follows them to a fragrance bar, like where you make your own perfume. So of course, like I said, Jade gold digging ass done picked out 4 perfumes. He said they was the most expensive ones, and Javon spent over $750. And then Jade was like, thank you so much, baby. So clearly it's more than just best friends. So from there they go to dinner, and Jade tells Javon like, so you're gonna walk down the aisle with the wrong person? And Javon was like, I don't know, but I'm stalling. So Javon and Jade head back to the house because RJ's still at work. So now it's time for Ken and Tammy to show RJ all the surveillance. So our guy is totally caught off guard by Jade basically saying that Javon pays her rent, because he's like, remember, she stayed with them for a couple months, got herself together, and supposedly got on her feet. But that explains the unexplained withdrawals from the joint account. And obviously our guy became more aware that it's not a best friend relationship when he saw them going upstairs to the bedroom, when he saw them going out on a date, and Javon was very touchy-feely with Jade. So Jade's rent was $3,000, and RJ was able to witness Javon sending the money. So they always got to do their dramatic Maury runouts. So at first our guy was just crying and breaking down, and he told Tammy to cut the video off, and she was like, well, I just want you to see the rest because there's not that much left. And he just ran out and was like, this motherfucking liar, I'm tired of this. Ran out, child. So Tammy and Ken get him back, and he has to decide if he's going to do this takedown or team up. And our guy basically said he never expected anything with Javon and Jade because, like I said, Javon is like a gay man who just looks like a man. He just dresses like a man. A little flamboyant, but just dresses like a man from what I see for the most part. Where our guy is kind of like a half and half, kind of like how Saucy Santana is. Like, he's a man and he has a beard, but he's wearing makeup and he's wearing a wig. Jade is a trans woman. Like, Jade is an actual trans woman. So he basically said, I wouldn't think that Jade is his type. I didn't know he liked trans women. So our guy chooses the takedown, as he should. So next day, Javon and Jade are at a clothing boutique. So Tammy and Ken are going to pick Argyle up to take them down. So Argyle goes storming into the boutique. Javon tries to run outside. So Tammy and Ken get out the car like he is not getting away. So Tammy ran up on him like, Javon, Javon. He said, I don't know who the fuck you are. She said, my name is Tammy Roman and you're on Caught in the Act Unfaithful. Argyle was in the store still yelling at Jade, telling her, you supposed to be my sister. Then all of a sudden we see RJ like, where the hell is Javon at? And he tried to run out the store and fell. Now Javon, I don't know if it's his makeup or if it's he got face surgery, but anyway, he came outside and he was like, Jade is my best friend. I never wanted it to be more than that, but she's always pressed me for that. So then Javon proceeds to say that Argyle always been jealous of Jade. And Argyle was like, why would I be jealous of this bitch who don't have shit and had to stay in our house? And he took off his ring and threw it at Javon. And Javon just kept saying, I want to be with you to Argyle. So then we see Ken inside talking to Jade. And Jade is like, that's my man. Jade don't have no remorse for the fact that she was staying with them and covering up their true relationship, acting like they was best friends. She said even when she was staying with them, her and Javon was sleeping in the house together when Argyle wasn't there. And Jade is claiming that she been with Javon for 14 years and that if he say he actually want to be with Argyle, they're going to have a problem. So he kept lying to Argyle's face, saying he never slept with Jade. And Tammy was like, you need to tell me the truth. And he was like, well, I don't want to talk in front of the cameras. So him and Tammy walk away. So the camera is still watching them from afar. And then Tammy has a mic on, so she's able to pick up everything he's saying anyway. So Javon basically said he always had a thing for Jade. He met her back in 2011. They've both been in each other's lives throughout relationships. Jade's been in relationships, Javon's been in relationships, but they've always had a connection where they felt like no matter what, this is home. So it is best friends, but it also has benefits. And there is a romantic love there. And Javon basically says that when he got with our guy, he was honest with Jade and said, I want to be with this guy. I love this guy. He's the love of my life. But Jade was basically just like, I don't give a fuck. Like, you still mine. And Jade basically says, like, it's me or him. Like, our friendship and everything, or you be with him. And Javon, like, I just haven't cut her off because I don't want to lose the friendship. At the end of the day, we've been friends since 2011. And Tammy, like, well, if Jade don't want to respect the boundaries and our guy means that much to you, then you got to make that choice today. Either be with him and cut her off, or continue your friendship and relationship with Jade and leave our guy alone. But it's time to be honest with our guy because you haven't been honest with him. So now all three of them are in the room together, and Ken is like, Jade is talking about y'all been in a relationship for 14 years. Javon is like, we only had sex one time. And Jade is like, we just had sex last night. It was not one time. And he told Jade, I respect you. I love our friendship. You've been there for me through our darkest times, but I've told you before, I don't see a future with you and I don't want to be with you. Jade is going crazy. Bitch, what? She said, if it ain't me, it ain't nobody. Who the F you gonna be with, B? Jade sound like she might be upset. She might be fatal attraction. You might need to get a restraining order. I don't know. So Ken gets Jade outside, and then Javon is like, listen, Argyle, I want to be with you. Me and her are flirtatious. We did have sex one time, but I don't want to be with her. So Javon is like begging Argyle, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'll cut Jade off completely. No friendship, no nothing. He got on his knees, and then eventually Argyle broke down and they hugged. Argyle is like crying in Javon's arms. And Tammy's like, okay, so I'm going outside to get Jade so we could bring her in here and let her know she's cut off. So Jade came back in and she was like, Javon, you wasn't saying all of this, oh, I'm going to be with Argyle stuff last night. And Tammy was like, okay, well, are you willing to step away from the friendship? And Jade said, if that's what Javon wants, then fine. I'm not going to force nobody or beg nobody to be my friend. And Javon was like, yeah, well, you've been begging me to be with you, though. And Jade was like, no, I was begging for that D and you gave it to me. And then Argyle got mad again and walked away. So Jade started laughing like, ah. And that was the end of it. Argyle walked out and Tammy was like, okay, I'm done. Tammy did go and check on Argyle at the car before he pulled off. So 3 months later, Tammy calls to check in on Argyle. And not surprisingly for me, Javon is there. So they are back together, and Javon said that was the last day he had any communication with Jade. He hasn't seen her, he hasn't talked to her, and she's no longer a part of their lives. And they're back on track to get married, so they said that they will send Tammy an invitation. So that's the end of the episode, and I'll see y'all next week for episode 6 of Caught in the Act Unfaithful. Bye.